The Las Vegas Raiders are coming off a 10-7 season when they went to the playoffs for the first time in a while, and it was really shocking to see the Las Vegas Raiders in the playoffs. Like, Cincinnati was a shocker, Philadelphia was a shocker, but Las Vegas was even a bigger shocker. And when you look at how the season went for Las Vegas, like, they had all kinds of turmoil. Like, they got out to a fast start like they always do to start the year. Then you had the conflict with John Gruden. He ends up stepping down. So then you have an interim head coach. And then you have the whole DUI incident with Henry Ruggs. Then you have another former first round pick getting in some off the field controversy. Like, there was so many things with the Las Vegas Raiders that posed a distraction to the team. But despite all these distractions that the Raiders had to overcome, they were still able to get into the playoffs. And it was really rare what happened because the Raiders got really hot at the last possible minute. Normally we see teams start to separate themselves from the pretenders and the contenders after Thanksgiving. That's where you start to see teams get really hot like Cincinnati did, Kansas City, and you start to see teams go ice cold, similar to what happened with the Arizona Cardinals this season. Now you look at the Las Vegas Raiders. They got some big wins when they needed them the most. They pulled off the upset against the Indianapolis Colts. That was a huge one. Then they got a big win the final week of the regular season, defeating the Los Angeles Chargers in a game that could have went either way. So it was really surprising to see Las Vegas in the playoffs. And this is a team that has a pretty solid foundation overall. Like, you look at the hiring of Josh McDaniels. He isn't going to a situation where he doesn't have anything to work with and he has to build from scrap. You have a solid quarterback in Derek Carr, who you probably could call the most underrated quarterback in the league from this past season because he had a really solid season. I know the stats may not be all that impressive, but you look at how the wide receiver room was looking for Las Vegas. Without Darren Waller, there was a lot of inconsistency there outside of Hunter Renfrow. You do have Josh Jacobs, okay, and on the defensive end, we already know that you got Max Crosby and you got Yannick Ngakoue, one of the better 1-2 punches in the NFL when it comes to pass rushing duos. So there is a little bit of talent to work with. And the Raiders also do have a little bit of cap space. They have $21,351,000 in cap space. So, that's enough to sign a couple of above average players, maybe about 2 or 3 above average players, maybe one great player, and then, an average to above average at best player. So the Las Vegas Raiders are going to be able to make some moves in free agency, make some things shake, and also the draft class that we have coming up of wide receivers is loaded, and there also are a lot of good defensive backs, which is something that the Las Vegas Raiders also have to load up on. Now, you look at bringing in Josh McDaniels, and he came as kind of like a package deal with Dave Ziegler. So, not too many people, I think, have a lot of confidence in Josh McDaniels, and I understand why, because you look at what happened the last time he was a head coach in the NFL. He was the head coach of the Denver Broncos, and his tenure there didn't really go all that well. But just because you failed at one spot doesn't mean that you can't succeed in another. We have seen Bill Belichick fail with the Browns. He got a second opportunity with the Patriots. We've seen what happened. Andy Reid got cut loose by Philadelphia, goes to Kansas City, he's a Super Bowl champion. So there has been plenty of coaches who have failed at their first spot who have been successful when they've gotten a second crack at it. There also have been coaches who have failed their first time being a head coach, who have also failed the second time that they've been a head coach and gotten another opportunity. Formerly, a good example of this is the former offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos, Pat Shurmur. He was formerly the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. He got fired. Then he got another opportunity with the New York Giants, and that didn't work out neither. So I'm not saying that Josh McDaniels will or won't work out, but I do feel pretty confident that he's going to do a better job this go around with the Las Vegas Raiders than what he did his first time coaching with the Denver Broncos. On top of that, he went back to New England. He was able to learn more things, so he probably has a better understanding of what it takes to be a successful head coach in the NFL now compared to what he did last time he was part of a head coaching gig. On top of that, when it comes to Josh McDaniels, you know that you're going to have a team that's going to be really well prepared more times than not. They're going to have a good game plan. I don't really think there's going to be a lot of games that the Las Vegas Raiders are going to lose because Josh McDaniels got out-coached. Like, if you talk to any player who used to work under Josh McDaniels or play under Josh McDaniels or whatnot, they will always say that he always has very good game plans. He knows his football. He knows his X's and O's inside and outside. Also, from a strategic standpoint, that's not going to be a problem either. I've never really heard a former player when they were playing under Josh McDaniels, rather he was the OC for New England, the head coach for Denver, say anything bad about him in the sense that the team wasn't prepared. However, how's he going to manage the locker room is really important because the Las Vegas Raiders right now have a culture problem, okay? You have everything that's went on with their former first-round picks getting into controversy off the field. So how is Josh McDaniels going to build the culture in Las Vegas, okay? And that's really important because establishing a good culture in the locker room is one of the more underrated aspects of assembling and building a good team. It all starts with the bond and the chemistry that you have in the locker room. If the locker room has a toxic vibe to it, then the team isn't going to gel. The chemistry isn't going to be there. Like, when you're playing on a sports team, and this isn't just football, but when you're playing basketball, soccer, baseball, any team sport, everybody has to be on the same page. Everybody has to have the same mentality. When I used to play football, I used to have a coach that used to have the mantra, one team, one goal. So everybody has to be locked in. So can Josh McDaniels have everybody in this locker room, or at least 85% of the locker room, buying in into what he's trying to do? On top of that, is he still going to try to run the Raiders the way that Bill Belichick runs the New England Patriots? Because if he's going to do that, he's going to have to be able to win games immediately. Because Bill Belichick's style of coaching really only works because of, first of all, his track record, and two, because the Patriots are really good and they win a lot of games. So you can't implement the Patriot way if you're losing. It's going to be a little bit harder to implement that year one if you're not having the wins that come with it. So for Josh McDaniels, I am excited to see what he does. And on top of that, the reason why I have some confidence in Josh McDaniels is because he has a really good staff that he is putting together. Like, defensive coordinator Patrick Graham is a major upgrade compared to Gus Bradley. And I know the statistics aren't going to be on the side of Patrick Graham when you look at how the Giants defense performed last year, but that can be really misleading, which is why I tell a lot of you guys not to rely on statistics all the time, because sometimes numbers can kind of be misconstrued. Because you got to remember, the Giants had one of the worst offenses in the NFL last season, which means that their offense always was going 3 and out more times than not, and their defense was on the field for pretty much the majority of the snaps, and their defense was getting tired out really fast and really quickly. So it was really hard for the defense to really get anything going when you get a stop and then 10 seconds later you're right back on the field. So the hiring of defensive coordinator Patrick Graham is a major steal for the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's going to be an upgrade from Gus Bradley. So the Raiders defense should be pretty good next season if they're able to improve the other cornerback positions and they can get a little bit more help or assistance on defense. Because I mean, like, the cap space in there is there, and although the defense was good last year, there still is some positions that they can improve and make it even better. So overall, the state of the franchise for the Las Vegas Raiders, For me, I'm 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 going to say that the Raiders are trending upwards. And this is going to be something that I'm not really accustomed to doing. Like, normally I wait to give my thoughts on how successful I think a head coach is going to be. But I think that Josh McDaniels is really going to be able to figure things out in his second go around being the head man in Las Vegas. Like, you got Derek Carr, so your quarterback position is already established. Now you just got to get more playmakers at wide receiver and improve the offensive line a little bit more, and the Raiders could be rolling, and they could be a challenger in the AFC if they make the necessary moves this offseason via the draft and free agency. And on top of that, you look at the Chargers, you look at Kansas City, like, they have some issues that they have to work out. Like, Kansas City, their cornerback position is a mess. And on top of that, they're not really great when it comes to getting pressure on their quarterback. They don't really have a lot of proven good pass rushers on that team. You look at the Chargers, like, that defense needs a lot of work. So there definitely is a spot for the Las Vegas Raiders to come out of nowhere and take over this division or even win it next season. You get what I'm saying? I'm not saying they're going to, but I'm just saying do not be surprised if the Raiders are a lot better than what you think next season under Josh McDaniels. I like the direction that this franchise is trending. You got a new GM, new head coach. I'm really excited for what the Raiders are going to be building for over the next couple of seasons with their new general manager Dave Ziegler and head coach Josh McDaniels.